do a demonstration of some of these burp projects. So to orient people, you see these 20 points of WSA projects every week from now on for the rest of the class. Good, and I see who AL is. Let me just make a note of that before it scrolls off my screen. Okay, I've got you. Good. And so what you do is you solve some of these Web Security Academy problems, and you can do any of them you want, but if you don't know what to do, I recommended some topics, and all I did was I found what I thought were the easiest topics to get you started. So directory traversal and command injection are the first couple. So let me you go into the burp browser. So here's my burp browser, and here's the rest of burp. Okay, so I'll go to my proxy. I'm just going to clear this old stuff. All right, and so in this browser, I've logged into my Portswigger account here. And so when you log in, you can go to the Academy here. So I logged into my Portswigger account, which free account you hopefully made last week, and if not, you can just make one now. And so when you go to the Academy, it shows you how many you've solved, and here's the learning materials. You just hit View All. And then you will see all the topics. And they're not in any particularly good order, which is the only defect. You can't beat this. These puzzles are great, and the material is great, but they're not really in any order. Like the stuff it starts with is not the easy stuff. So I said for this week, I would recommend doing authentication. I think, let's see, directory traversal and then command injection. Okay, so directory traversal is someplace down here. There, directory traversal. Okay, so I open that in a new tab. And there's some explanation, and then there's a lab. So I can right-click and open a new tab, and this shows me a lab. And there's going to be a path traversal in the display of product images, and my goal is to get to the etch password file. So I open the lab, again in a new tab. And it is supposedly loading. Okay, there we are. And there it loaded some images. So I want to find the code that loaded those images. So in burp, it'll be down towards the bottom. All right, and I might see, here's some images loading, like burp suite icon and such. But I'm not really seeing, I see a lot of extra requests here, and it's hard to find the one showing images. So first thing is, notice this filter, hiding image in general binary content. So it's not showing me images. This is the default of burp. So I have to click on that and show me images. Okay, so that's one thing. Now, I'm just going to clear all this old stuff and try to get a simpler situation so I don't have to hunt so hard. I'm going to click on one product, view details. And that will load one image. So I can find that image, and you see here it's image file name equals 1.jpg. That's the vulnerability. And now, if I want more instructions, I can go to solution here, and they say, modify the file name parameter, giving it this value without the period at the end. So I want to change that file name. So I send this one to the repeater, and there's the file name. So I put in that // stuff to point to somewhere else. And when I send that one, I get this file here, and that's how I solve it. So that's the general procedure, and these are the path traversal. And the other one that I recommended, so do a few of those. There's a series of them getting harder. And then the next one is command injection. So let's take a look at that. So to get to command injection, I'm going to close some of these other ones that I'm done with. And I'll go back to the learning materials. And here's OS command injection. So I open this one. And I get an explanation of what it is. And the labs are down here. So I open this one. And then I open the lab. And the point here is you can escape the language that the web page is running in, which is typically HTML and PHP, and you can execute commands on the server. And I think these are Linux servers, so it's bash command injection. Yeah, you can also do it in Windows servers, and then you'd have to execute Windows commands. So here's again some kind of page. And if I look at the instructions, they tell me I have to execute the whoami command. And so he says, modify a request that checks the stock level. So let's go here and go back to proxy history. Okay, take a look at this page. So there are various products available, but nothing about the stock level. So if I hit view details, it describes this, and down here is this button called check stock to see how many of these things there are in London. So that would appear to be the vulnerable operation. So I'm going to clear all this old stuff. And then I'm going to see how this request works. Check stock. And that request sends a request up to the server. And it's got a product ID and a store ID. And then the response is just a number, 62. So what's happening is it's using these parameters to build a command line. And so if I can inject commands here, like I can do semicolon. First I have to send it to the repeater, by the way. So I send it to the repeater. And to see if they have any anti-CSRF defenses, I'm just going to send it now to see if it works. And it still works, so they apparently don't have any defenses to prevent me from repeating requests. And if this got a command injection vulnerability, I can probably just do a semicolon, say date, and that would execute the date command. And it does. I get the date. So I can now execute commands. And they said I have to execute the whoami command. And so when I do that, then I get the information I'm Peter, and that would make me win. So anyway, and they had and by the way, once you have command injection, there are many ways to do it. So they did it with pipe whoami. Here you can put it in the other parameter. You can use a semicolon or other spacers between the commands, and they'll often work. So anyway, that's just one that I wanted to point you to. There's a whole lot of these. So if you go back to this command injection, there's one. And then there's a harder one, and a harder one, and a harder one, and a harder one. So there's a lot of them. There's one I didn't solve up here yet. Well, there's one where you actually had to have the pro version of burp, and I didn't bother to get the pro version, although you can get a trial of the pro version. But anyway, that's what you should all be doing. And if you have troubles, come to any of my classes. After the first hour or so, I'm ready to answer any questions. So I'm going to, one last thing I forgot to mention. You can get badges to prove that you have succeeded at these courses now. This is something a lot of my students wanted, and I put it on my homepage. I now have badges available. So if you got an A in a class last semester, you can get a badge. If you get an A this semester, you can get a badge at the end of a semester. These badges look like this, and these are proof. They're proof because they are Windows executable files, and they have digital signatures, which are valid. So these are signed like code. I got a code signing certificate and a corporation. So these are signed and they cannot be altered. If you were to go and change this name to somebody else, you can do that, but then the digital signature will tell you it's not any good. Do I use this page for my class? Google Greer. I used Google Greer years ago. Yeah, I did long ago. Now I think that the Portswigger Academy is better. But yes, I used that in this class many years ago, Greer in this class many years ago. And it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But I think the Portswigger is more up to date and more directly relevant for modern web app pen testing. So I think it's the best training product, but sure. All right, I'm going to stop the recording.